Hey guys, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today's video is going to be showcasing the first Void Titan build I have made this season with Void 3.0, and the build that I actually used to get through the entire Legend campaign solo for Witch Queen. So if you were stuck on the Legend campaign looking for a Titan build, this is one for you. Also recommend my Godslayer DPS Titan build because that also still shreds this season. We're first rocking Ward of Dawn, which is going to allow us to basically pop our bubble, again applying that 25% buff to us for all of our damage as well as for our fire team. And I'm personally using Shield Bash, so there's essentially two different ways that you can go with Titan with this build. The first is Suppression and then Volatile Explosions, and the second is Overshield. Both are very good options, but I feel like it's bad to mix them both, so this is the first dedicated video for one aspect, and I'll be making an Overshield Titan video in the near future. But again, we're using Shield Bash to apply Suppression, and I'm also going to be using Vortex Grenade, which might sound weird. If we're using Suppression, you might expect something like Suppressor Grenade, but I'll show you why in a second. I'm also using Offensive Bulwark. This essentially allows us to have increased grenade regen as well as increased melee range and damage while we're in our bubble. And then finally, we're also working with Controlled Demolition, which allows our void abilities or volatile explosion damage to make enemies volatile, and then further damaging them causes these volatile charges to actually explode, which grant our nearby allies and ourselves health. As far as fragments go, I'm also using Echo of Provision, which allows our grenade damage to grant us melee energy. I'm using Echo of Exchange, which allows melee final blows to grant us grenade energy. You can already start to see some of the synergy there. I'm also using Echo of Expulsion, which allows our void ability final blows to cause targets to explode, again dipping back into that volatile charges. And then finally, Echo of Leeching, where our melee final blows start health regeneration for us and our nearby allies. I would personally swap this with Echo of Instability. However, Echo of Instability is not available until the completion of the Day 1 raid. Onto our armor for this build. For our helmet, I'm rocking Melee Wellmaker, which is a 1-cost seasonal mod this season. And I'm also rocking 2 hands-on just to increase the super energy bonus that we get on our melee kills. I'll show why in a little bit and essentially again explain the overall point of this build. But as we go on, just keep in mind, we're going to be trying to chain our abilities as fast as we can, get our super down as fast as we can for us and our fire team, and just overall keeping our fire team alive through health regen, suppression effects, buffs, and debuffs. Onto our gauntlets for today, I'm using Doomfang Pauldrons. Now there are a few different exotics I would actually recommend with this build. Doomfangs is one of them if you want to go with the faster super route. And if you're ever doing the legendary campaign where ads can be a lot more difficult, having your super a lot faster is always much more appreciated. However, Precious Scars would be a good option, and even Heart of Inmost Light would be a fantastic choice for something like this. For our first mob, we're using Font of Might, which enables our void weapons to have increased damage whenever we pick up a elemental well matching our subclass, which in this case is Void. And I'm also using Melee Kickstart and Grenade Kickstart just to increase the regen rate of our grenades and our melees. However, if you would want to rock Impact Inductions, again, increasing the overall synergy between our abilities, something like that works perfectly fine too. I'm just figuring to dip into both. Onto our chest piece, we're rocking Well of Tenacity, which might seem weird if you've been keeping up with this mod in the previous seasons. However, at the start of Witch Queen, they've essentially swapped Protective Light and Well of Tenacity's damage resistance. So essentially, Well of Tenacity is going to be giving you a 50% damage resistance whenever you pick up a Void Well, and Protective Light is going to be giving you a 10% damage resistance whenever you get critically low, allowing you to stack it with Charge with Light. Kind of like a increase in utility, but a decrease in overall effectiveness, if you will. As far as our other mods, it's really up to you. I'm going to be primarily benefiting my heavy weapon, which is not only great with ad clear, but also synergizing with our ability regen. So I want to make sure I have as much ammo for that as possible. If you also want to rock resist, like Thermoshock Plating, for example, you could totally do that based on the activity you're in. For our legs, we're rocking Elemental Ordnance, again allowing our grenades to generate those Void Wells we're going to be using a lot for this build. I'm also using Absolution and Better Already, which is going to give us increased ability regen and start regenerating our health on Orb of Power pickup. Although weapons that spawn Orbs of Power are normally a bit nerfed, this is primarily beneficial with fire team activities because it allows us to benefit not only from picking up Orbs of Power for our super, but also just for our overall subclass as a whole. However, if you would rather focus on stuff like weapon mods such as scavenger perks, 100% you can definitely do that. And then finally, onto our mark. I'm using Overload Grenades just because other Overload mods found in the Seasonal Pass are a bit bugged right now, so this is really one of the only effective ways to stagger Overload champions without a weapon that intrinsically has Overload rounds in it. However, I'm also using Volatile Flow, and this is absolutely crucial for a build like this as it takes this build up to the next level. Picking up a Void Elemental Well grants your Void weapons volatile rounds, and this would play in with the fragment I mentioned earlier, allowing our weapons to cause those volatile explosions that in turn heal us and our allies and deal an overall ton of damage and are extremely excellent at clearing an entire room of ads. I'm also using Suppressive Darkness, where whenever we suppress a combatant, we also weaken them, causing them to take additional damage for a short period of time. This is again going to be achieved through our melee, which again is not only going to be giving us super energy whenever we actually get kills with it, but is also proccing additional effects based on Suppressive's effects itself. Then finally onto our weapons. Again, I'm trying to cause as many explosions as we can, get that health regen up, as well as dealing a ton of damage and doing very well in ad clear. I'm actually using the Corrective Measure LMG. My role has what I consider to be the god role for something like this, which is Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie, not only amping up our grenade damage as we go on, but also giving our grenade back as we use this weapon at the same time, and allowing it to reload when we use our grenade. I'm also rocking Graviton Lance, which might seem weird, but for those that don't know, Exotic Primaries got a 40% damage buff to miners in PvE at the start of the season, and Pulse Rifles themselves got an additional buff in PvE, so Graviton actually benefits from both of those. And it can also benefit from Volatile rounds as well as Font of Might, which allows us to essentially increase our damage dramatically, and allowing the void explosions that are already found on Graviton Lance to stack with our volatile explosions, causing an immense difference in ad clear and overall really nice damage and ad clear potential for an exotic primary. Hell, even for a pulse rifle in PvE. Then for my final weapon, I'm simply rocking Heritage, which is just a good major or even boss DPS weapon, just because a lot of this is focusing on single target damage that also functions through ad clear, so a more dedicated DPS weapon is definitely appreciated with a build like this. However, if none of these weapons really sound good to you, that's totally fine, and there's a couple other weapons that you can use and I would actually recommend if you're not interested in this. If you're looking for other weapons to use because these just simply aren't really doing it for you, you can also use stuff like Telesto and Deathbringer. Those are probably my two biggest recommendations currently, and like I said, these can both benefit from our bubble buff as well as the suppressing debuff, as well as Font of Might and volatile rounds, essentially enabling both those weapons to be ad clear monsters and do really decent damage against high HP targets. However, if you want to go with the more suppressing route, you can use Suppressing Glaive found in the seasonal artifact, and actually use the Void Glaive, the Enigma. This is a fantastic way not only to use the new glaive weapon, but also apply the suppressing effect and enable stuff to actually play off of Suppressive Darkness. Overall, a fantastic playstyle as well. If something like that sounds good and you want to know what to pair with that, you can also use Tractor Cannon, which has its own unique suppressing effect, or Two-Tailed Fox, which also has its own suppressing effect on one of the rockets, and you can also benefit from stuff like Rocket Launcher Scavenger, which is now a 1-cost mod this season. All in all, you can really start to see the potential of this build in order to chain abilities while getting health regen. Again, the Overshield Titan build has a little bit more of an edge when it comes to regenning abilities, just because of how certain exotics play off of it, but until we get those new mods and until we can actually better understand the Void subclass as a whole, as well as get the new glaive with it in particular, I feel that it's not at its true potential, and we'll do a video on it when I feel it's finally there. As far as this build goes though, it is absolutely incredible, and again, it's what I use to solo the Legend campaign. Its ad clear potential is absolutely unmatched this season. And volatile rounds stacking with Font of Might, stacking with Bubble, and then applying a debuff brings basically any weapon into an S tier DPS machine. And with the volatile rounds constantly exploding and going off on high HP targets, something like Corrective Measure goes from essentially a great ad clear weapon to a full-on boss DPS weapon when combined with everything else. Graviton Lance as a kinetic pulse rifle in PvE is performing exceptionally well compared to the standard, and overall it's something I highly recommend for you to try out. Again though, Telesto and Deathbringer are great options, and if you want to go for the more suppressive route, you can definitely use the Glaive, the new suppressive artifact mod, and combine that with Tractor Cannon. All in all, this is a build I'm really excited to show you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. Again, whenever the Overshield build is more refined, I'll make a video on that detailing what I would recommend for this. But that's pretty much it for today's build guide. Thank you guys so much for all the views and support on this channel. I really appreciate all of it. And I'm really excited to start bringing you guys more Witch Queen content. And again, I will be doing all 3 characters. So let me know what builds you want to see down below. Probably gonna start off with Void for all 3 and then go into the more refined aspects of each build later on in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like what you saw today. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and have a great day.